I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice.
Do your own research.
Consult a professional investment advisor before making any investment decisions.
This show is for entertainment only. Faites vos propres recherches.
Here we are
in another episode
of the Simple Success Podcast.
And
this is financial life coaching from a happiness perspective.
Previously on Simple Success.
School electronic butler takes a hike. Oh, a hike. You know I love hikes.
Differential, Sean.
But you must admit it was a great distraction. Perhaps it was a great distraction. John.
And now, just like with a previously on thing on TV, we take you directly to this week's episode. Anything is possible.
Do you ever notice how the last thing we hear tends to shape what we believe even when it shouldn't? You mean like, the last headline I read suddenly becoming the truth? Yeah, I've fallen for that more than once. Huh. Hey, did you ever fall for this?
We are from the Intelligence Planning Commission.
For what exactly?
We are from the Intelligence Planning Commission.
Well, only if it was the last thing I heard.
Which of course is the entire point.
Yes, Olivia, that's true. And that is the recency bias in action. It's where our brains give more weight to the most recent information, even if it's incomplete or misleading. It's human, but it's also risky. So you're saying that I'm being tricked by my own brain?
That's comforting.
Well, sort of, and it doesn't have to be comforting, because it's definitely not about blame. It's about awareness. If we don't recognize the pattern, then we can't break it. And recency bias doesn't just affect how we think, it affects what we do. You know, just last week, I was ready to sell some investments just because of a doom-filled article I'd read that morning. Which investments? Nice try, John. But as we all know, each and every one of us must
Do your own research.
You're right, and that's exactly it.
Know what's important to you and stick with that.
Yeah, don't be like that guy everyone complains about.
All right, Matthew, the one who always acts on what he heard last.
That's a great question.
No, it's not, Olivia.
Why not?
No, it's not, because the whole idea is for us to all learn how not to be like that.
Okay, well, it's your example.
And our examples do need to be long-term. Yes, I agree. One emotional headline, one dramatic news segment, and suddenly, long-term thinking is out the window. I mean, the market hadn't even changed that much, but the tone of that article had me ready to hit the panic button. No, the one you're reading, yeah, and that's why it matters. If we let what we just heard control what we do next, we can lose the bigger picture. Recency bias narrows our world to one loud moment. But we still want to know what we can control next, don't we? We do. We simply need to know what to say no to so that we can say yes to the things that matter. Makes sense. So what's the antidote? How do we succeed at this investing game? Perspective and intentional review. Personally, I keep a cool down rule. Before acting on anything emotional or urgent, I wait 24 hours. Oh yeah, you sleep on it. Yeah, that's one way to look at it. If it still feels valid, then I consider action. So you actually do that? Every time. And I'm learning to journal my gut reaction.
Like famous journalers Ben Franklin and Oscar Wilde, among others.
Yeah, good inspirations like them. It's amazing how often I go back later and say, wow, that was not my best idea. Good thing I waited. So, IRL for me, it's like if I heard someone criticize my project yesterday, and now I want to scrap the whole thing. Right, it can be like that. But if 10 people before them praised it, why not let that one voice carry more weight? That's recency bias robbing you of clarity. I am guilty of that. Oh, we all are. And now that you mention it, I've probably let one offhand comment sideline me for days. of sorcery is this? Oh, it's not sorcery. You said it yourself. It's human nature. Oh, right. Thank you. Because that's why we're talking about it. When we make decisions based on what's recent instead of relevant, we lose traction.
But when we pause, zoom out, and reconnect with our long-term values, we move forward.
That's right, Kevin. You go, little man. All right. I'm starting to see the wisdom here. But do you have a way to remember all this? Some kind of, shortcut? I thought you'd never ask. Try this one.
Don't let the last voice drown the lasting truth.
That's poetic and annoyingly memorable. Well, I do want you to remember and use it without thinking, so I do my best. And now...
Time for the rhyme.
A rhyme that's gonna stick. Not just the rhyme, the truth of it. You know, I've been letting what I just heard run the show, but I am ready to switch channels. And that is where we'll pick up in Act 2, where we'll explore how this bias plays out in daily choices and how we can turn awareness into better habits. Lead the way, my friend. My friend? Well, that might not be the latest news, because news may not be your friend. It screams so loud that it cannot bend. And your judgment's warped before the end. Where truth gets lost when trends pretend. The most recent is not always the one most fun.
We grow when we're open to.
Break number 1. I'm not trying to make doubting Thomases out of y'all.
Yet you cannot tell a lie. Hey, George Washington is nigh? Obviously not.
Nor is it time for the rhyme.
But it is time for something. It is?
Yes, it is.
It's time to learn. Learn about what? Why, DT, it's time to learn about a sponsor. You know, what they make, what they do. Before we even get to act number 2? Well, yes, indeed, my friend. As our editor knows.
This is the place where your message goes.
We can plug it right in to the story we tell, so that no one fast forwards. Except from your well. We can build it ourselves. With approval from you. Taking action will do it.
Not bragging, it's true.
Starting something instead and taking action, as you just said.
Based on your beliefs.
Yeah, but still not just knowing, but also doing.
And as I've been saying about goals. No, sorry. Getting what you want without limiting the rights of others.
That's correct, Matthew. Or yucking their yum, as is said. But still, it has to be...
Based on your beliefs.
Which are that our imagination drives our beliefs and our actions. So, we're best coming from where we want to be. Instead of where we want to go, we look as though we're already from, such as from being a great investor. Perhaps, yes, if that's appropriate.
Can we test that theory?
Yeah, Kevin, good idea. So, John, you're saying that just because I read an article yesterday predicting doom in the market, I shouldn't panic?
Don't panic!
That saying is what I'm doing indeed. Recency bias gives too much weight to the last thing we heard. Way too much. But one loud opinion doesn't erase all the data.
Nor all the trends.
And certainly not your plan.
But it feels so real, like I can't shake it. The fear gets in my chest and suddenly I want to pull out of everything. I get that. That's the trick of recency bias. It hits you where you're most vulnerable, your sense of urgency. But reacting without context is like turning the car around after seeing one pothole.
You've really got this metaphor thing down.
Yeah, he is pretty good at that. And it actually makes a lot of sense. Thank you, but let me give you a real example. Remember early 2020? The markets plummeted, headlines screamed collapse. But those who stayed the course through all that, they stayed focused, and they saw a full rebound and more within a year. Yeah, I remember that. I jumped out too early, lost out on some serious gains. Or way back before your time, in the quote-unquote financial crisis of 2007 and 2008. Oh yeah, you told me about that. That time when you bought houses at 2/3 off. Yep. Gotta do what you supposedly can't do, or you face the danger of reacting to what you heard last instead of what you've learned over time.
One day's drama shouldn't undo your long-term wisdom.
Okay, so how do I fight this bias? It feels so automatic. It is, so you use awareness. Awareness is probably half the battle, and the rest is discipline. Try keeping a mental time machine. Ask yourself, would I have made this decision a week ago? Or am I just rattled today? That's a clever spin on mindfulness. Like giving my future self a voice in today's choices. True dat. And if you want another anchor, make a personal playbook. For example, if I hear scary news, I wait 24 hours before acting. Oh, the sleep on a thing again. Sure, if you like. It gives you a buffer to assess your thinking. I could do that. I can put a pause between emotions and actions. And that pause is golden. That's where your best thinking lives. It all comes back to focus. And not just focus on now, but focus that stretches across time. Beautifully said, DT. And take wise, careful, and measured steps, but take them. I like that. And I add a little art to battle the bias. We need more of that. We need all the tools we can get. Because, recency bias isn't evil, it's just natural. What we can't let it do is run the show. That is our choice. So I choose context. I choose calm. I choose better habits. And that right there is the growth mindset. So stay tuned for Act 3, where we'll close out with some stories of transformation and how to really hold on to your long-term goals, no matter what the headlines say today.
Yeah, since a single thought can lead us astray.
If we treat each news flash as the way, emotions stir and cloud the gray, and we drop what mattered just yesterday.
But wisdom blooms when facts accrue.
And steadiness reveals.
Break number 2.
We know a lot about you already because we know ourselves. For example, we know that you know how to listen to our podcast. We also know that you probably know how to subscribe. So as soon as you're done with that, tell us your story. We have ways you can contact us. It involves a special link where you can leave us a message. We may have an email address for you as well in the future, and we'll let you know if that happens. The reason for subscribing? I thought you'd never ask. When you subscribe, you automatically download all future episodes of that podcast. It just happens in your player without you having to go search again. How cool is that? This means better rankings for the podcast, more attention from advertisers, and more money. And this means more and better stuff for you. So your motivation is simple and easy. Subscribe today, whatever app and from whatever place you like. And don't just try to subscribe. There is no try. There is only do. We're changing the way we look at things, and remember, that's good. Eso es buenísimo. Also remember, this is financial life coaching from a happiness perspective. Coaching happiness. Our call to action is right in the show notes. Find it, and you win too. Can I simple that? Por supuesto. Of course. Just simple it.
Please make sure your seatbelts are fastened and your tray tables are in their upright position.
And make sure simple is a verb like Google is a verb.
我们回来了. That's we are back.
So I've been thinking about our being back since we wrapped up that last part. That is good. Yes, it is good because you've been thinking. Well, sometimes anyway. Ignoring that Barb, I'll say that you're right, John. It's not just about recognizing the bias. It's about actually doing something to stop it from hijacking my choices.
Yep. It's not about being perfect. It's about being intentional.
Because you don't have to ignore your emotions.
Just don't let them steer the wheel.
You mean like letting a toddler drive during rush hour? Pretty much. In this case, you're still in the car, but now it's your long-term goals behind the wheel instead of last night's headline. Okay, so give me some of those happy endings you promise. Real stories. I need the inspiration. Absolutely. So let me tell you about Sarah real quick.
That's me.
Thank you, Sarah. She's a teacher, very disciplined, but used to reacting quickly to financial news. Remember, she came to one of our sessions in full panic mode after a dip in the education sector? Yeah, but she waited, took a breath, reviewed her long-term plan, and guess what? What? 6 months later, her portfolio bounced back stronger than before. That's encouraging. So the storm didn't sink the ship. Nope, it did not. And she learned that by staying in the boat even when it rocks, you often find more safety than you would by jumping out. Okay, got another one? Sure, being quick because we're almost done. There's Mark.
And that's me.
Thank you, Mark. Early 40s, owns a small landscaping business. And he saw a tweet that scared him into thinking a recession was guaranteed. Yeah, he almost did. But instead, he talked to his advisor, looked at long-term data, and stayed put. 2 years later, he doubled his retirement contributions because he didn't panic. And these are real people. Yes, they are. And they're not just lucky, they're mindful. That's correct. They just refused to let the last thing they heard become the only thing they trusted. So instead of chasing noise, they followed their own plan. Yep, you nailed it. It's like this coffee shop. You know, in the background, you might hear cups clinking and people chatting and stuff, but you're focusing on our conversation and not every background sound.
That's how it works with financial news, too.
And like your poem said earlier, not every shout deserves the end, right? Right, and here's one more poem to close us out. Another one? We don't usually do that in Act 3, but okay, go for it. A headline bursts and pulls you to quit, but wisdom waits. It doesn't submit. Pause the panic and commit. Trust the process. Don't fall for a skit. Time reveals what's really true. Decisions are best when they've seen more than two. And that's the kind of peace I want. Not false calm, but earned confidence. And it's yours. It just takes practice, perspective, and a good podcast or two. I'll toast my oat milk latte to that one. Yeah, let's do it. And for our listeners, if this conversation gave you a moment of clarity, don't just nod, act. Revisit your goals. Put some structure around your decision-making and remind yourself what you heard last doesn't have to be what you do next. Correct. Think about it.
Which is how you've all gotten good.
Gracias por escuchar.
Salut. À la prochaine.
No robots were harmed in the making of this podcast.
No dogs were shot either.
This podcast and our other podcast are productions of Little Red Hen Industries.
Part of the Sonic Boom Network, where we do the hard work for you.
And Rishi helps our hen bake the bread by giving credit to these great people.
Techno King, John Brandy.
That's me.
Alter Ego, Doubting Thomas.
And that's me.
Fact Checker, Napoleon Bonaparte. Social Manager, Abraham Lincoln. Always on the internet's inner tubes whatever. Media Expert, Augustus Caesar. Psychologist, William James. Sound Designer, Les Paul.
Thank you for inventing multitrack.
Language Consultant, Leah, the French do-your-own research lady.
Cough, cough, cough.
Videographer, Ertaman Koshki.
Lights, camera, action.
Inspiration, many podcasts and other sources and of course Napoleon Hill. Additional inspiration and thanks go to Steve Jobs, Joseph Allen, Charles Darwin, Leonardo da Vinci, Henry David Thoreau, Abigail Adams, Jonathan Livingstone Seagull and the Stick Figure.
Quick disclaimer here. Many sentences contained in our podcasts are of a very dangerous length and were performed by highly trained vocal practitioners. On no account should inexperienced life forms attempt to imitate them without proper medical, jaw, and lung supervision.
And before we forget, you can also subscribe to both podcasts, join the community, and benefit from many of our techniques, including financial advice, patience, practice, and even podcast production for your ideas. Of course, you'll have to head to the show notes, either on your phone or on the web, to get the links and stuff. And all those clickable links are in the show notes. Hey, Emma, do you, Samantha, and Daniel want to tell us a bit more about this stuff?
Sure, the artificial intelligence or AI voices that you hear in our work are offered up by Google, Amazon Polly and OpenAI. They don't sponsor us yet, but we love what they do and we just love what AI can do when lovingly crafted.
Finally, you can find us through our network. We happily consider guests and consider guesting on other people's shows.
That sounds like a really old school computer voice. I'll call it Zarvox. It's definitely not Samantha, or any other modern AI.
Yeah, I'm not feeling well today.
Our music comes from Cute by Ben Sound and from Piano Background by Nick Simonados. Thanks also to AI MuseNet, Suno.ai, Udio.com, Phrase.io, ElevenLabs, and Ace Studios. The sound effect credits go to Jackson Academy Ashmore, Canoe CG, Dr. Jekyll, Joe Payne, Everything Sounds, MK Play More Stories, ERH, Sand Emotions, Big Pickle 51, and Just Kidding. Yes, that's his or her name. All on freesound.org. Also, languages are the bomb.
Paul.